Welcome to another edition of Fall Rise Give. I'm a co-host, Bartender Bob. That's Kumar, my good friend. And this last week, Kumar, I know that we usually start off with a lesson and an intro to the topic at hand. And I know we're talking about the sixth chakra, which is intuition and insight and mind's eye and stuff. But I want to step back and look at something that's kind of been personal to me. I know that I've shared my granddaughter's struggles with the podcast, and she had open heart surgery. She ended up with pneumonia. She had a breathing tube and a feeding tube, and et cetera, et cetera. And my daughter, whose daughter it is, so she's been staying up at Mayo Rochester with her daughter, and she's spent the last week now at the Ronald McDonald home up there in Rochester. And I just wanted to say that with this chakra, about the intuition and the insight and the mind's eye, I always thought that Ronald McDonald home or house was an actual house. I don't know why I pictured like a rundown or just a home. But we went to the Ronald McDonald home where my daughter's staying to visit, and then go from there to the hospital to visit the granddaughter. And what an emotional, wonderful place they have built up for families there at the Ronald McDonald home. I don't know if you've ever had any opportunity to be a part of that at all, Kumar, or to see any of that, but I walked into this place and my throat got, I can hear it in my voice right now. I feel like I'm getting emotional about this whole thing right now. But you walk in and you see this beautiful place, this beautiful space that they have built for families with little children that are going through health problems, and they take care of these people, and there's stuff for them to do, and there's things for little kids to do. And I don't know if that's sidetracking our podcast today or not, but I'm just at an emotion. I've been an emotional wreck this last week, honestly.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's understandable what you're going through. No, I think it hits the theme of giving, right? How Fall Rise Give, and how much, I don't want to say just joy, but how much of a relief and comfort the Ronald McDonald House gives families that are going through a hard time. And McDonald's Corporation has been giving to Ronald McDonald House since I can remember. And they're in a lot of different cities and different hospitals. And it's just an amazing example of giving. And I think when you give, you're starting to see the benefits of it. People really benefit from us giving to them. And obviously McDonald's is getting branding even on this show. I'm going to be eating at McDonald's this week just to support that. And McDonald's does a good job. They've been doing this for decades, and it's not something new, but it really supports families. And so anybody out there listening that likes fast food, stop at McDonald's. Know that your friends in the Fall Rise Give podcast have benefiting from Ronald McDonald House, and lots of families, thousands of families are benefiting from it year to year. We just don't hear about it until we need it. And in your case, you needed it this week, and what a blessing.
Absolutely. And I might be an emotional wreck this entire podcast today, but the whole journey that my granddaughter's going on has just made me really contemplate life and just sit back and look at things and enjoy the blessings that we have, and really thankful for the people that are out there helping out. I mean, the podcast is called Fall Rise Give, and the whole giving that people are just so wonderful and so helpful and so great and giving of their time and their money and their experiences and their expertises, to see this little girl go from, can't breathe, has like a 60% oxygen to 95%, and she's up and moving around and smiling and happy. And anyway, I'm sorry. I don't mean to go off on this tangent here, but it's just, it's been a week. It's been a really interesting week.
No, that's great. It's great that you're benefiting from it and you're on the positive side of it, right? It's better than the other option where we'd be talking about something even more devastating. And so, what a great blessing. And as far as the topic, giving is a huge part of it. But I also think the ultimate giver in the world is God, in whatever form, the universe or higher power that you call it. You're seeing the blessings and so many positive things that we can focus on. And so we can focus on the negative or we can focus on the positive. And we're going to focus on the positive here, That's just the nature of who I am. I'm an ultimate optimist. And I think kind of what we're trying to show people is, hey, getting in alignment with the truth. And ultimately, next week, we'll talk about the seventh chakra and getting in with um, gratitude and abundance. But today, we're talking about intuition and insight. And that really comes from God and opening up your sixth chakra, the mind's eye, or the third eye, as they call it. So yeah, that's what we want to talk about today. If you don't have any questions, I want to start out with a quote if I can, and
Yeah,
we'll go from there.
absolutely. So I was going to actually ask you. So what does that mean? What does the third eye chakra mean? But go and start off with your quote, and then we'll go into what it actually is.
The third eye really is best put in this quote, and this scientist, I'll say his name after the quote, um, I look up to because he's got the science and the spirituality together. And he's one of the world's foremost scientists and one of the most well-known scientists. So he says the intuitive mind is a sacred gift and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. So the sacred gift is the intuitive mind, is what he says, and his name is Albert Einstein. This is my favorite chakra. This is one of my uh, favorite parts of opening up the mind's eye. At the heart of this, we've talked about Kundalini Yoga, and opening up the mind's eye is really what it's about. That's really a connection to God or intuition and the spirit or the soul, whatever you want to call it. And so it makes a big difference in our ability to do the right thing. So opening our intuition is really the key for us to take the right thoughts, the right beliefs, the right actions, and it gets us closer to our purpose. And so that's why I love it so much. When we do the rational mind, we get into analysis paralysis and we overthink. And we got to stop the overthinking through tools that we'll talk about today. We'll talk about how to open up the mind's eye, developing your intuition, and then we'll talk about visualization on how to visualize and connect to what you really want. So yeah, that's what it's about. Does that help explain what it is about?
It does. And you mentioned Kundalini. Is that how you say it? Kundalini yoga. We've talked about that the last couple of podcasts. So does that tie into all seven of the chakras?
It does. It raises it from the bottom to the very top. So the Kundalini is like a snake DNA energy that goes through your spine and all the way up towards your crown. And that energy through that yoga in the ancient traditions opens up your mind's eye. And in Hindu culture, it's also the Shiva energy. The Shiva has got the mind's eye, and a lot of people practice it. Most of the time, people practice yoga. They don't practice, they practice exercising and stretching. They don't often practice the energy movement through breath work. The Kundalini yoga is helped to do some deep breathing, what's called pranayama. And through that, open up the chakras from the root chakra and all the things that we talked about, goes all the way up to your mind's eye and then through your crown. Very hard to do. We've got Dr. Joe Dispenza, who spends hours and hours and days and weeks training people on how to do that. Dr. Joe is how he's known, Joe Dispenza. He talks about energy and heart coherence and mind coherence, which is really opening up the pineal gland. And that's really based on ancient traditions. But he's brought up the science around how the brain screens and graphs and charts of your brain actually change once you open up that state of mind, that heart and mind coherence. And so opening it up has been proven by science to alter your brain waves and your brain chemicals. It's a really powerful tool. And the simplest way I can tell you to open up your mind's eye is really, really something that we can do. We can take a couple of deep breaths through our nose, and we can close our eyes, and we can exhale. Do it again. And now focus your attention on right between your eyes into that mind center on your forehead, and right below the forehead, right between your eyes. Focus the center there. And as you focus on that, just try not to think of any thoughts. and that's where your mind's eye is. And so that's focusing on through meditation, and we can talk about that in a second on how to open it up a little bit more. But that's how you open up. That's how you meditate at a deeper level, and that's how
Mm-hmm.
you do it. So I can walk through the exercise in a little bit. Did you feel anything when you just did this?
I was just gonna say it's funny when you said that because I did it. I followed along with you as you were doing it, and I felt myself getting into that zone that I get into. I write hammock thoughts on my Facebook stuff, as you've
Yeah.
read, but so I got into that. Actually, I got into that zone much quicker by doing that just a minute ago. Just that short little exercise where I felt my mind being free, and I felt all the crap leave my mind. You know, I think I'm going to definitely use that exercise in my daily and regular life because it just like that. I just kind of felt at ease for a
In a matter
moment.
of seconds, you can shift your attention.
Yeah.
In a matter of seconds.
It took what 15, 20 seconds for you to kind of walk us through that.
Yeah.
And you're right. It let all that stuff go.
And one of the other ways you can do it, and take your fingers, take your index finger or what are the first finger, and you move it above your nose through that sharp point. And by touching it, you're actually activating the brain chemicals for. So if you take your fingers, both hands, and you rub between your eyebrows, kind of like that, and up a little bit, you can actually
Uh-huh.
feel the energy in the center between your hands. And that's a great way to awaken the eye. It's a simple little tool. You're not going to get huge lasting effects of it. You'll get a matter of minutes and hours of awakening. But to truly awaken your mind's eye, you've got to get in that zone that you just said. And what you do is, I'm going to teach a simple breathing exercise, and you can do it at any time at home. It's just called Raja Pranayama. Raja Pranayama is been taught by the gurus and the ancient tradition. And what it is inhaling through your nose for 4 seconds. Okay? Like that. And it's holding it in your system for 16 seconds, 12 to 16 seconds. And then exhaling slowly for 8 seconds through your mouth. So the formula is 4, 16, 8. And what you do is you do this kind of exercise, count of 10. You can count on your hand as you do it. And after those 10 minutes, it activates your central nervous system. You get in the zone. It'll take 8 to 10 minutes tops. And you're able to get into this theta wave brain pattern. And once you do that, you're at a calm center. And that's when you focus on your mind's eye and you just sit. Now, at that point, you can repeat a mantra, which is we can do a Christian one or we can do a Hindu one. A mantra, as you know, is a phrase of words, right? And people
Mm-hmm.
often repeat mantras over and over again. So I'll give you a Christian one first or a universal one, and then I'll give you a Hindu one from Sanskrit. And you do these things and you repeat them over and over again, and you get in this meditative space that you're able to open the mind's eye. So the first one, the universal / Christian Western world, is I am connected to the divine. I am connected to the divine. And you repeat that over and over again after you get to the meditation through the breath work. I am connected to the divine. You repeat that in your head. Obviously, you don't have to say it loud, but repeat that in your head. And that will get you in this trance / meditative state where your thoughts stop.
Mm-hmm.
If you are wanting to, and if you're a yoga practitioner, you probably heard about this Hindu / Sanskrit set of words. It's a very popular mantra. And if you don't mind saying it in a Hindu / Sanskrit word, I would have you do that instead, and that would really connect you to the universal sound of and Shiva energy. So that one is Om Namo Shiva. Om Namo Shiva. So what that does is Om means the universal sound, Namo means the name of and the god is Shiva. And what that does is connects you to the Shiva energy. And that's really the Kundalini energy that you want to wake up in your mind. And that's where your heart and your mind connect, as Dr. Joe calls it, coherent mind and heart energy. And what you're able to do is really get into this incredible zone. So being in the zone, being in the flow, as they call it, is really what it's all about. And when you open up your third eye, when you open up your mind, you're able to get into that zone. And then you can, whatever activity that you do after, you tend to be able to do it with much more ease and much more calm and much more focus. So we talked a lot about it there, but I think it's important to talk about tools, not just emotional energy and certain words and things like that.
When you're talking about the breathing exercise, I've forgotten what you had called it. The breathe in, hold for
Raja
16, let
Pranayama.
out. Okay, I had learned an exercise very similar to that many, 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 many years ago. That was it's very similar, but it was called square breathing rather than
Box breathing
that.
is another word.
Yeah, because it was basically it was the count of four for everything. So it was count of four in, hold for four, let out for four, don't breathe for four, and that over the course of my life has saved me from anxiety and anxious feelings a lot. But I tried the 4, 16, 8 that you were talking about, and that seemed to do the same thing, but maybe even quicker than the box breathing. So, I mean, those are just a couple of exercises that we can use and think about and have those be a part of our, our mellowness, if that if that would be the right way to say it, or our way to center and calm ourselves.
Yeah, I use the word, I am calm, centered, and loving. Right. I've
Okay.
got a bunch of phrases, and I repeat that one quite often, that I'm calm, centered, and loving.
Self-talk for me a lot of times helps out a lot.
Yeah, I'm actually reading a new book I picked up yesterday, and you'll laugh at the title of it. It's called, or not end. It's called Unfudge Yourself. So
Okay.
Unfudge Yourself is the name of the book. It's written by a guy from Scotland. He's got 27,000 reviews, which makes him a bestseller.
I interviewed him years ago on my BS with Bob podcast.
Did you really? What's his name? John Bishop?
Yeah, yep, and he's got that strong brogue when he talks.
Yeah.
I'll try to find the episode, and I'll post the link to it on our show notes. But I interviewed him years ago.
Gary John Bishop from Scotland,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
amazing. That book, somebody just recommended it to me, and I've got like 3 or 4 different books that I'm going through right now.
Honest to God, Kumar, you'll get a lot out of that book. That is it's close to like the Mark Manson book that you told me to read.
Yep.
That has that word in it also, but
Yeah.
it's just along that line of thoughts,
Yeah, and basically what he's saying is that our thoughts and our circumstances are related. And this famous author in the 1800s wrote about this, named James Allen. He goes, "As a man thinketh" is that book. So you are a compilation of your thoughts, your beliefs, which are based on your thoughts, that are concrete set beliefs, and your actions. And your actions are determined by your thoughts. The most important thing that we have to take care of is, and this is where the research comes in, your self-talk determines a lot of your emotions. So if you're
Absolutely.
thinking negatively about certain things, you're going to react in an emotional way about negative reactions. If you're thinking positively, you're going to look at opportunities and possibilities of opening up to a solution. And so this is what he's saying is nothing new. There's a book out there called Inner Game of Tennis by Timothy Galloway that I've mentioned and talked a lot about. There's an inner dialogue going on in our head. And that self-talk is really critical for us to be able to think through. There are research that he quotes in the book on F Yourself that talks about, scientists have done studies on self-talk, and people who tend to talk negatively about their circumstances tend to have higher anxiety, higher depression, and tend to not live a life of their purpose. So self-talk is really important. rounding it all together is getting yourself into these keywords, these mantras. And mantras are really a key for positive affirmations. So, positive affirmations, when you're in that mind's eye zone, they have a huge impact. They start to touch the subconscious. The subconscious determines a lot more of our behavior than our conscious mind. The conscious mind gets distracted by television, radio, sound, eyes, all sorts of stuff. The subconscious is in the background that's behaving in a way that you're used to. To be able to tap the subconscious mind is very difficult. You can make it easier by meditation, and the start of meditation that I just talked to you about with repeating that mantra, Om Namo Shiva, or I am connected to the divine, can really help in getting you in that zone. And that's when you want to use your positive affirmations of whatever it is that I am willing to do XYZ to lose weight. I am willing to do XYZ to try a new career. I am willing to do XYZ to do whatever I want to be able to do. So positive affirmations, controlling your mind in a positive ways is a lot easier once you open your third eye and get into that zone.
A big part of it too is to get out of your head. I know that my partner Monique has a hard time sometimes. I mean, she's a wonderful person. I love her to death. She's so dear, but sometimes she overthinks and she tries to make things more difficult than they need to be. And and I don't know if there's a part of this chakra that tries to get you to not overthink and to not to cloud your judgment so much, and instead of taking it and moving, a pen from here to here, she thinks about 18 more steps that she could take, instead of picking it up, moving it here. There's 18 things going through her head that's like, oh, well, I need to do this and then this. And then if I move it over here, you're thinking it might fall on the ground and then it'll break and then somebody will slip and fall. I mean, like, no, you don't need to think about all of that stuff. Just do this and stop thinking about it.
Just be.
Just be and be in the moment.
Just be, yeah. And maybe that should be a tagline for our podcast is just be.
Just be.
Yeah. So the meditative exercise that I just showed you is going to stop your thinking. It's going to calm your mind down. It's going to get the theta waves. And you'll start thinking with the coherent heart and mind energy. And so you're going to start thinking in a calm, centered, loving way about whatever it is that's going on in your life. It's actually, research has shown, it actually activates the lymph node system in the body, where the waste system, there's a blood flow and the oxygen, that's the nutrients part of the body. Then there is the lymph node system that carries the waste out. So it's actually a very good way to detox yourself. And so one of the ways for intuition for us to think about is this mindful meditation that we just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And your mind and your intuition is not just in your brain. It's in your gut. We talk about the gut reaction. My gut feeling is XYZ. We talk about heart. You're thinking about certain things in a particular way, your own truth. We talked about the throat chakra last week. So listening to your gut is another way. Start acting on it in small decisions. You want to be able to use your rational mind, your intuitive mind, and your coherent heart energy together. And the best way to do that is listening to the divine. And when you're meditating and after meditating, what are the thoughts that are coming to you? Write those down. Think about what it is that you're truly wanting in that situation, whatever is your conflict or whatever is going on with you. Reflect on the past experiences of when you've been more intuitive, something that you've done. You went down the street to the left and you ended up meeting someone, or you ended up being in the right spot. You didn't need a Google Maps to get there. So in your past experiences, you've gone through and you've been intuitive. So look at your past experiences when you've been intuitive. We all have gut /intuitive/heart coherent energy. We've used it at times. Sometimes it comes naturally to us. Sometimes we have to work at it a little bit. What we just showed you is working at it.
What you just talked about earlier kind of helps people to unblock that too, and I think a lot of times we don't listen to some of the things that are given to us. I mean, you look at the whole world and things, and you'd mentioned go left instead of going right in a situation. Sometimes we see those things or hear those things, but we don't take action on it. I think that letting ourselves be free and maybe get to the age that we are, because I mean, I'm 57. Are you 57 or 56?
56.
So I think that it took me to this time in my life to realize that you don't need to follow the map that somebody else has. You need to follow your own map in order to get to where you need to be.
Exactly. You are inherently driven by the divine / God energy in you. How you tap into it and how you take actions, and you can make big decisions when you're listening to that intuition, the mind's eye. We just told you about breathing exercises. We talked about meditation and mantras. Once you do that, your mind becomes clear and you start to get directions. You actually start to get real directions, real authentic, real positive type energy for your soul. You start connecting to your soul. And so what happens is decision making becomes easier once you open your mind's eye. It doesn't mean that you leave your rational brain behind, but you start to think and see things clearly. Your brain is not going to forget the rational mind. It is going to take a look at that, but you're also going to get this divine / ether, soulful insight, the intuition that we call it, the gut feeling. You'll be able to be more aware of your gut factor, the gut feeling.
Does everybody have intuitive thoughts? Because I know that when we were growing up, we always heard about it. It's like the woman's intuition, and like your mom, like my mom always had that. They're doing something wrong, and she knew it.
Yeah,
I don't remember. I don't remember my dad having that. I don't remember me having that when my kids are growing up. But it seems to. Does everybody have that, the intuitive feeling?
They do. Everybody has it. Obviously, I'm a male, and I consider myself very intuitive. My wife is very intuitive as well, and she can kind of see things. She has that mother intuition. She can see if something's going on wrong with her daughter or our son or our daughter in a way. So I think a lot of people have intuition. It can also be a fear or anxiety. When it's presented in a negative way, it's not intuition. It's not the positive insight that you're getting. That's a fear-based emotion thing that's telling you something could go wrong. When things are going in a clear, usually in a positive way, presented in a positive way that's not judging you or someone else, and that is not afraid, fear is one of the biggest things that gets in the way of intuition. We talked about releasing fear and trusting in higher power and our God in the third chakra. So it's really important not to confuse intuition with fear. And so intuition, the way to get closer to it is through meditation. You shouldn't be fearful, and you don't get fearful if you're relaxed, right? You have less anxiety when you're relaxed. And so spending time in solitude, in nature, in meditation, that's how you get connected to your own self, your soulful self.
Yeah, you know what I find? This is going to sound way off the wall here, but as you know, and many of our listeners know, that I was a talk radio guy for a lot of years, and I used to watch hours of news a day. I'd read a couple of newspapers a day, and I'd let all of that stuff just build up, and it used to just bother me. And I don't know if I ever had an ulcer, but I always felt like I just always had a stomachache, and I was always angry, and I was always, bitching about things. And then all of a sudden, I lose my radio job. That sucked, but I stopped watching all the news. I mean, I still catch up on the local stuff to see what's going on. I still read one newspaper a day, but I don't follow a lot of the stuff that I used to. And I find that my life is a lot simpler now and a lot more at ease than it used to be, just because I don't put on myself the worry of a lot of the other stuff that's going on out there.
So we are a product of our environment to a lot of the different things. So there's, nature versus nurture, and our circumstances are all determined by what's going on around us. If there's war going on, there's anxiety, there is fear, there is destruction. and all that negative energy will come to you. We can focus on a war going on right now in Israel and between Israel and Hamas. That will give you a lot of energy, a lot of negative energy, a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't care about peace and love and try to stop the war. But if you focus just on that and not on the solution of it, it can be very destructive to our nature, our body, our thoughts. So it's really important for an intuitive mind to be in nature, thinking positive thoughts, affirmations, mantras. But meditating and relaxing is really the key. To get into intuition, you've got to listen to a higher power. Open up your mind's eye by breathing, by focusing on the mind's eye center between your eyebrows and staying calm and loving. That will get you to a higher level of intuition and away from a fear-based thought.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Fall, Rise, Give, where we explore stories of resilience, growth, and giving back. If you enjoyed today's episode, please visit our website at www.fallrisegive.com. Also, consider subscribing to our podcast on your favorite platform and leaving us a review. Your feedback helps us to continue to bring you inspiring stories. Stay tuned for our next episode, and remember, every fall is a chance to rise, and every rise is an opportunity to give. Until next time, keep falling, rising, and giving. This is Fall, Rise, Give, produced by podcastforhire.com. Thank you for listening.